In today's game, we are going to use improvisation to explore possibilities for your plot. Now, we're going to use the hero's journey as a basic structure for the plot because that pattern is underneath nearly every story in the world in one way or another. But as we go, if your story varies in one way or another, don't worry. You just want to think about what the possibilities are, and if you need to skip over something or adapt something a little bit to the circumstances in your story, feel free. To play this game, you're going to want to find some open space where you can move. You want to stand up and you want to be able to visualize. If you're in a space where you're not able to move around, I'd like for you to either close your eyes or even lay down and close your eyes so that you can really go with your imagination. So if you're standing up, I want you to shake a hand, shake another hand, shake out your shoulders, shake out a foot, shake out another foot. And I'd like for you to take on your character. So that means look at your feet, think about what your character wears on his or her feet. I want you to think about your character's body. What do they wear on their body? If they're not human, do they have feathers or scales or fur? Think about how that affects the way they stand and move, and then think about their facial expression. I'm going to give you 5 counts to really take on the body of your character. Here we go. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Now, if you've been playing along with this video series, you probably have already thought about your first scene. And if so, I want you to go ahead and strike a pose of your character in that first scene. What are they physically doing? Go ahead and strike that pose now. If you haven't done those other videos, I want you to think about what pose might work for you. You need a setting, you need an action, something that will start out your story in a strong way. And if you're having trouble with this, you can always pop back to the how to start a story video and work on it. So this moment is where your character shows us their ordinary life. What is like before the story starts? So I want you to think about anything you might want to add to this moment that would help us to see what your character's life is like. I'm going to give you 5 slow counts just to act that out without any voice, just moving your body, thinking about what might happen on an ordinary day. Here we go. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Now the next thing that happens is that your story starts. So something arrives, whether it is a written form of communication, a person comes in, a natural disaster, or something from the outside, or even your character gets to a point where they make a decision, everything is going to change. So I want you to figure out what is it that starts your story and figure out how your character might stand in that moment. What would they be doing? And on the count of 3, let's strike that pose. 3, 2, 1, freeze. Now, whatever pose you're in, I want you to elaborate on it. And as you do, I want you to really think about your character's reaction. So think about they're experiencing this call to adventure, this new thing that's starting a story for them. How do they feel? Do they resist? Are they excited? What is their reaction? Let's play it out in motion. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Now, after the call to action, we need to have our character take action. So they've been called, something's happened, and they either need to go for it or they need to resist. But eventually they have to get into the story. So if they're like Alice and they follow the rabbit into the rabbit hole and they fall, or if they're like Lucy and they walk through the wardrobe into the snowy forest, or if they're a character in a real life story, it might not be going to a different world. It might be making eye contact with a new friend, or it might be introducing themselves, or it might be entering a contest. Let's play that out. You have 5 counts. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Now, one thing that happens at this point of the story is usually that your character meets someone who we might consider to be a wise advisor. There's someone who helps them understand what's going on in this new world, or helps them get their bearings. Sometimes they'll give them some sort of map or clue or something that will help structure their adventure, help them know what they're supposed to do. Think about who a person might be that could come into your character's life and give them a little bit of information so that they can continue forward on this adventure. It could even be someone their own age. Think about who this might be and how they might interact. And let's do 5 counts of what your character might do with their body as they're interacting with this character. A lot of it might be a conversation, so you can even stand still and imagine in your mind what they might be talking about. Here we go. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Now, we're going to move into a series of trials. If you're writing a short story, these events should be small. And if you're writing a novel, these events should be whole sections of the story. So we're not going to think about every single thing that happens, but we're going to think about 3 ways that your character tries to solve the problem at hand. So I want you to think about, first, your character has some information, they've crossed into the adventure. What is the first big task that they have? Do they need to find something? Do they need to battle somebody? Do they need to overcome something? What would your character be doing? And on the count of 3, go ahead and strike a pose of your character there. 3, 2, 1, freeze. Now the story is not over yet. This is just the beginning. This is one thing your character was trying to do. They're either going to accomplish their goal, they're going to find the object, or they're going to overcome the challenge, or they may not. If they don't, the problem might get even worse and it might change in some way. If they do find the object or they do overcome the challenge, there will be a new challenge to face. And again, we're going to come up with a snapshot, a really important moment of that challenge. You ready? 3, 2, 1, freeze. Now you kind of know the drill, so we're gonna do this one more time. We're going to actually add one more major conflict in the story. This could be that the problem is getting worse and worse. It could be a series of challenges. We're not yet to the climax, but we're about to be there. So after this 3rd challenge, we are going to find ourselves on the doorstep of that most exciting scene. What will they be aiming to do in this section of the story? Think about one key moment. We'll find a frozen pose for this. 3, 2, 1. Now let's go to that climax. Let's go to that most exciting moment. In that moment, there's often some sort of surprise, something your character might have been trying to find a dragon for the whole story, and they're going to take a treasure away from the dragon's lair. But when they get to the dragon, things don't go anything like what they expected. So we're going to take 10 counts right now, and we're going to play through a possible version of your climax. Do this without speaking, play it through physically, see what might happen. Here we go. 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Nicely done. Now we are going to move on to the resolution. So usually as you move into that resolution, your character has grown in some way. Something has happened. Think about, is there something physical your character can take away from this encounter that will help them remember their experience? Or if it's a new quality that they've taken on, you can think about an action they could take to show this quality. And let's strike one more frozen pose of that, either holding the object, showing the quality. Here we go. 3, 2, 1. And finally, usually your story will wrap up by showing your character's life now that the adventure or the mystery or the journey is over. So think about, will they go back to their ordinary life, but things are now different? Will they build an entirely new life so ordinary life doesn't look like it did before they started? Think about one way you can show who your character is now, some action they can take, and we're just going to play that out for 5 counts. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. I encourage you to check out the link below, which will take you to an interactive writing tool, which will help you really nail down these key moments of your story. I'm curious, did you come up with any ideas that you're really excited about? If you did, feel free to share them in the comments area below, because your ideas might spark other people's ideas to come up with interesting thoughts and possibilities of their own. Our next video is going to focus on a really important aspect of building scenes, which is showing what happens instead of telling the reader what happens. And this is a very nuanced skill, and so we're going to play around with some ways to use games, like we've been doing through this whole series, to really bring a scene to life. I hope you'll join me for that, and I hope you'll share this video and tool with writers and mentors and others in your life who you think might benefit from it. In the meantime, here's to you and your creativity.